In South Asia, history has been written in the shadow of conflict. Since the partition of 1947, India and Pakistan have fought wars, engaged in tense skirmishes, and struggled over the disputed territory of Jammu and Kashmir. But in May 2025, this uneasy peace collapsed once again. A single night, a sudden strike called Operation Sindoor pulled two nuclear-armed neighbors to the brink of catastrophe. This is the story of the 2025 Indo-Pakistan conflict, its military maneuver, legal battles, and the tremors it sent across the globe. The night of Operation Sindoor. Shortly after midnight on May 7, 2025, Indian missile batteries roared to life. Precision-guided projectiles struck radar posts, command centers, and suspected militant camps in Azad, Jammu and Kashmir. Within minutes, Pakistani radar detected the assault. Sirens blared. Air defense units scrambled. Fighter squadrons of JF-17 Thunders roared into the skies. By dawn, South Asia was embroiled in its fiercest aerial combat since the Kargil War of 1999. India justified the offensive as a preemptive strike against militant camps, citing national security and imminent threats. Pakistan rejected these claims, calling them fabricated, and launched immediate counterstrikes both in the air and in cyberspace. Law, sovereignty, and justification. Beyond the battlefield, the legality of Operation Sindoor ignited fierce debate. Under Article 2.4 of the United Nations Charter, states are forbidden from using force against the sovereignty of others. India, however, invoked Article 51, the right of self-defense. It argued that intelligence pointed to imminent cross-border attacks. Yet international jurists questioned, was there an actual armed attack or merely a perceived threat? Pakistan denounced India's reasoning, declaring the strike a violation of sovereignty. Formal complaints were lodged at the United Nations. Diplomats scrambled to prevent escalation as the world watched anxiously. Pakistan's response was swift. Deploying its latest JF-17 Thunder Block 3 fighters, developed in collaboration with China, the Pakistan Air Force demonstrated its growing technological maturity. The Block 3 is a 4.5-generation multi-role fighter equipped with an active electronically scanned array radar, advanced electronic warfare pods, helmet-mounted displays, and the long-range PL-15 missile with a reach of over 200 kilometers. In real combat, these features proved decisive. In the skies, a Pakistani JF-17 locked onto and destroyed an Indian Rafale, pride of India's fleet. Despite the Rafale's reputation for sensor fusion and its Meteor missiles, the encounter revealed the value of training, integration, and strategy over mere cost. The world took notice. Media outlets from Reuters to Jane's Defense Weekly confirmed the Rafale's loss. Analysts hailed the JF-17 as a cost-effective yet lethal platform that had surpassed expectations in real war. Across Africa, Central Asia, and the Middle East, governments began to inquire about acquiring the jet. For Pakistan, it was more than a military success. It was a moment of international prestige. Other Pakistani platforms also played their part. Electronic warfare suites jammed Indian radars. Integrated cyber operations disrupted communications. The combined effect showcased a new doctrine, one where technology, precision, and adaptability eclipsed older doctrines of brute force. The world reacts. The world held its breath. The United Nations convened an emergency session. The outgoing US President Donald Trump entered the fray as mediator. A temporary ceasefire was reached within days, but not without consequences. Trump imposed a 25% tariff on Indian exports, a punitive strike against unilateral action. China, a close ally of Pakistan, lent quiet support to strategic silence that underscored shifting global alliances. NATO watched nervously as Chinese hardware proved its effectiveness in combat. For emerging economies, the message was clear. Chinese weapons had arrived as serious competitors to Western systems. The nuclear shadow. Looming over every moment of the conflict was the spectre of nuclear war. India's doctrine promised no first use, whilst Pakistan kept its stance deliberately ambiguous, refusing to rule out first strike. Yet behind the fiery rhetoric, cooler heads prevailed. Hotlines between military commands remained open. Back-channel diplomacy aided by Switzerland and Qatar diffused the worst dangers. But the near miss proved chilling. Nuclear deterrence did not prevent conventional escalation. Instead, it emboldened risk-taking, a living example of the stability-instability paradox. Shifts in global defense trends. Beyond South Asia, the war reshaped global defense markets. The JF-17's combat success spurred interest from Africa, Central Asia, and the Middle East. Cost-conscious nations looked to Beijing and Islamabad rather than Paris or Washington. Western defense dominance faced a quiet but undeniable challenge. Meanwhile, the conflict exposed glaring weaknesses in Indian intelligence and surveillance. Cyber and electronic warfare, not tanks or troops, determined the tide of battle. Both nations began racing to modernize with AI-driven surveillance and drone warfare. The Kashmir question. At the heart of the crisis lies the unresolved Kashmir question. India, by constitutional law, rejects any referendum on secession. Pakistan, in turn, continues to demand a plebiscite, citing UN Resolution 47 of 1948. For decades, these positions have locked the two nations in perpetual deadlock. Scholars argue that only a democratic, internationally supervised referendum could bring lasting peace. But political will remains elusive. Without resolution, Kashmir will continue to fuel conflict. Lessons of 2025. Operation Sindoor lasted mere days, yet its ripples continue to shape the world. It revealed the fragility of peace in nuclear South Asia, the evolving nature of modern warfare, and the shifting balance of global power. But in its aftermath, one truth became undeniable. The world learned that Operation Sindoor was not a defensive measure, it was a false flag operation by India. For such aggression, India owes an apology to Pakistan and to the world. Compensation must be paid for the loss of life, the damage to infrastructure, and the violation of sovereignty. Most importantly, justice demands progress on Kashmir. The people of Jammu and Kashmir must be allowed their long-promised right of self-determination through a fair referendum, internationally monitored and binding. If necessary, India must amend its constitution, for no legal framework can justify denying a people their voice. The 2025 war may have ended, but the true test of peace lies ahead. Without accountability, without reconciliation, the cycle will continue. But with courage, dialogue, and the will to uphold justice, South Asia may yet find a future beyond war. Future where the mountains of Kashmir echo not with gunfire, but with the voices of people free to decide their destiny. India must stop the blame game.